have it way better and roll past in Mercedes.
The other thing is,
why is it so hard for me to attain that?
You make it
that's
social
mobility. But the other part of it, though, is social mobility
agree.
is so much
Really
more strong now than it used to be. It used to be either, for example, in India, as you well know, there's caste systems. And then you also have, in olden days of England, if you were poor when you were young, you're poor when you're old. There's nothing you can do about it. But now there is something you can do about it.
Yeah.
So what is...
So you're asking what, like,
it is...
in the modern sense,
Yeah, the eggs answered.
I don't think people are starving, but the statement I made was they're starving for access to the state. I would say specifically in this LA riot, it's because of the ability for the state to act against you without due process. You know,
I do want to cover something.
I don't want to live in a fucking country where if my mother-in-law goes to a gas station because she's on a visa, gets fucking picked up with fucking random fucking people and have to deal with the fucking process of getting her out. I think that's fucking ridiculous.
Did that happen?
No, I'm not, but it does happen. It's what is going on. They're going up to fucking just places, like if you don't have your fucking ID, they take you in. Like that's not a country I want to fucking live in.
Yeah. Well, somebody's green card was thrown to the side and told somebody's visa and I-20 were torn up and told that they were fake, and she was arrested.
Like it's
so terrifying. It is the country that you, but it is the country that you live in.
I don't even want to live in a country
due process. Is
where they're accused of having a fake ID. I don't want them to be able to go up to random people and ask for IDs. I don't want to live in that type of country. Forget whether it's a fake ID or not.
How they treat the least of us is how they treat all of us eventually. You have to realize that. You know, and at the end of the day, and you say don't live here, dude, you literally immigrated here and you're taught the laws.
Yes.
These are the laws of the country we're talking about.
Well, I hear people saying that, and they basically say America is so terrible. But
we're not saying that.
The ironic thing is that we just had to stop a crap ton load of people trying to get into the country. It's that bad.
And like I said,
I'm not saying
people living here saying it's terrible.
I'm not saying America is terrible. I'm not saying I'm going to leave. I'm just saying I will work.
I get you.
I will do everything in my power to make sure that this country doesn't turn into that, as limited as it is. I'm not going to riots and protesting because, you know what, frankly, I don't have time for that shit. I just don't.
You don't have time to riot.
So I asked the
riots, but I just don't have the time.
I asked the cleanest question I could, which is what metrics would I want to look at if I wanted to reliably predict civil unrest, which I thought was the cleanest and most precise way to put it. And the first two things were predicting civil unrest is a complex challenge that researchers, governments, and organizations approach through various quantitative and qualitative indicators. Here are the key metrics: economic indicators, unemployment rates, particularly high youth unemployment, and income inequality measures, the Gini coefficient. I would argue youth unemployment is a factor.
I've got a third option for you.
Inefficiency, such that the Gini coefficient is this thing that is described that helps predict civil unrest. And it's got places like South Africa at 0.63 and places like America at 0.41.
So we'll predict like the likelihood of what types of people that would say riots. We talked about that, aren't we? Protests and whatnot. But I think what would cause that, and I think you guys just hit the nail on the head a moment ago, because you was basically describing like government overreach. So if you're in a impoverished area and there's a bit high amount of government overreach, I think, just reflecting on what you guys have just said, I think those two are probably the most problematic.
I understand what you're saying, but to what the other guy said about like the difference in people's incomes, I feel like that's not necessarily a bad thing as long as you have a system in place to like make sure that people aren't falling through the cracks. Basically, like I think the income ratio is less of a matter as government creates more like social programs to help those people. Because the standard of living in America for the average poor person is extremely high compared to what it was in the 50s. If you were poor in the 50s, it was really fucking bad for you. It's not as bad for you now.
Yeah.
The standard of living
could be fine if you have a high floor, and you've got good social mobility.
Yeah. So you have high social mobility. You have a very high standard of living for people, even at the lowest strata of the country, and yet you still have unrest.
Yep.
Yes.
Government overreach.
But the unrest is, I don't think, coming necessarily from the income so much as the government overreach as much.
So the most unequal UK cities, English cities, Cambridge, Oxford, and London.
There you go.
Which are all three where there were riots, weren't there? The most equal are Burnley, Stoke, and Mansfield. Then US cities, most unequal, Puerto Rico, Atlanta, Miami, New Orleans, New York. And most equal cities, Santa Ana, California, Virginia Beach, Columbus, Ohio. They might have had rioting at Columbus, Ohio. One of the unions.
Did they have I don't think there was rioting here.
To Chicago, yeah.
Just a heads up, Columbus is not really considered a wealthy city. It's a major university town, but it's not a wealthy city. Cleveland.
Yeah, this is just listing them by their Gini coefficient.
I do want to say,
stack them up by Gini coefficient, you can predict where riots will or won't happen, because the Gini coefficient will be higher wherever it happens.
Columbus would be a weird one to do that, because it is the capital city, so there's the political class, and then the rest of the city is poor college students.
Yeah.
Why don't we do this way? Why don't we try and find a list of cities by Gini coefficient?
Just try to think internally. What would cause you to riot? What would be the reason that will actually? Because I know everyone here saying they wouldn't.
Feeling I had no opportunity. I think somebody else nailed it before, which is also usually there's a sudden spike in food prices. Like, it can be driven by anything like a crop failing or usually it's down to petrol. If petrol gets more expensive, then food gets more expensive, because you get your food from petrol.
Energy.
You've got to truck it from here to there. And
has
then
anyone here,
that quite often kicks it off. But it
has
would
anyone here
almost
considered
only
rioting?
be in a place.
So there's economic factors.
I think I might riot today. I don't know.
No, it'll be somebody poor. It'll be somebody poor living next to somebody rich.
That's the thing. Like, inflation hurts poor people way. Like, if you are able to sit on discourse for hours a day, the amount of inflation in the system is not going to hurt you as much as it does for people who are actually working. Like it's micro for them. They can't even afford a $400 expense.
I'm only on Discord while I'm working.
Oh,
same. I'm meant to be working right now.
Back to work, you.
So you can line up the cities by. So tell me where have there been riots lately? Puerto Rico's, I don't know what that's like. New York, yes. DC?
Nope.
DC is incredibly split, because the vast majority of DC is incredibly poor.
Sorry, hang on. I've got a.
But there's no DC
New York,
riots.
Puerto Rico, New York.
There was one. Are we talking what
Columbia?
time frame? What time frame are we talking about for this one? So there was a riot in DC, right?
Yeah, Connecticut, Louisiana.
Just as you mentioned, Atlanta was really the inequality was or the differences broad, but I don't think there's been a riot yet.
No, Atlanta's got the benefit of really feeling unified as a city.
Yeah, it really is. If you consider how wide, there's all sorts of disparate people that live here. It's actually quite stable. I'm happy to say.
Buckhead.
Atlanta's happy as long as the Falcons are kind of in the playoff hunt, and the Braves are stuck in their usual bipolar midseason mode.
Atlanta.
I just am worried that
you're
throwing away those of you who are okay with what's happening in that you're throwing away due process? That you're saying it's due to them breaking a law, but I don't have to prove they've broken that law? So
it's an overreaction to an. It's a. Yeah. I was going to say, if you're in Atlanta, make sure you go to the Coke Museum, and then make sure you try the drink Beverly. It will brighten your day. So, no, I think everyone. They just get talking points fed to them, and this current one of due process is the one currently being fed to them.
But you don't think due process is an important constitutional right?
No, I think just hearing that over and over and over again means that it's very, very clear that it's a narrative that's been fed, because you wouldn't have that thought process if the narrative being fed to you was what are all these people doing in here? How soon can we get rid of them because they've been invading our country? That would be the narrative that you think about and that you would espouse.
And in that mind
then
frame,
get rid of them legally.
Exactly. In that mind
illegally.
frame, well,
Get rid of them legally.
So in the mind frame you're saying, yeah, if they're illegal, let's get them out. But in the mind frame you're saying, the methods in which they're doing that are subverting your rights as well.
It very, very much feels like it's a red herring.
Really?
So
you're right to hang on. So what this would mean is anybody suspected of being foreign that can't produce a green card, which would include US citizens, you can be turfed out of the country if somebody just turns up, looks at you, which is up until now illegal as per the Constitution. So not state by state law or federal law, as per the Constitution. And not by amendments. I'm pretty sure this is in the plain text original OG Constitution. You can't
I
do
don't
that.
even think we have to go
that far. What you're saying is because they broke a small federal law.
A what?
A federal law which comes below the Constitution.
They broke a small federal law. That's how you're viewing illegal immigration.
Constitution. To me, there's the Constitution at the tippy top. Then there are the amendments to the Constitution. Yeah. Then there are the amendments to the Constitution that come below that. Then there are the federal laws, and there are state laws, and there are county, and then there are like, city ordinances.
Not below the Constitution, they are the Constitution.
Sure, that's probably a better way to say it. But what I mean is, you can't pass a law. Can you or can you not pass a law, federally or otherwise, that contravenes the Constitution? Yes or no?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Oh,
and then,
okay,
you can, and then the Supreme Court, Supreme Court will rule on if that law violates the Constitution.
It'll get slapped down pretty quickly. Yes. So yes, but then the Supreme Court. Yeah.
That's not necessarily pretty quickly.
Not pretty quickly. Could. Yes, but yes, you could. But the process
the wheels
would be
of justice turn slowly.
Well, yeah. You could, but the process would be Supreme Court then votes. Supreme Court then votes and says no or yes, and then at that point, we got the law. You know, that's the end result.
I am the law.
Do you want to live where police can come up to you, ask you for your ID, you show them your ID? Well, they say, well, that's a fake ID. We're arresting you, and then you have to sit in jail to see a court for the weekend.
That's not even the process. That's due process, honestly.
I understand that's due process, but do you even want to live in that type of society?
No, not at all. But
exactly. I was trying to ask the other guy. I was trying to ask the other guy.
Yes, he's asking me.
Sorry.
No, I want to live in a country where the people who are here legally.
Okay.
And I don't appreciate living in a country where there are people who are excusing the fact that there are millions of people here living here illegally and thinking that it's fine and dandy, and then attempts to get them out. They're clutching the pearls and saying due process again and again, because that's all they've been hearing from the mainstream media, and so that's all they think about. Not the fact that these millions of people are here illegally, the fact that they're being kicked out in a way they don't approve of.
They do need to be removed by the process that is established.
It is.
That's not really up for debate.
Right, a governmental body should be able to abide by the Constitution. If they cannot do that, then they are not fit to be a governmental body anymore.
And most importantly, you could do this legally. You could do this in a way where you go, right, how are we going to find these people in situations where they should have to legally produce their paperwork? How can we confect situations where that happens and start that way? But they've gone in a militaristic style with troops in camouflage, so not in law enforcement entire, through streets to demand people show their papers. And we have seen this before.
And we can also deal with the fact of reality that
we have seen this before many times over. I'm not talking about just that one, but yes, that one.
Well,
I get the implication.
I also just want to bring up that people have came here with their kids people have come here with kids 10 years old, and it's now the kids are over the age. They're now 20, they're 22. They're illegally here, but like doing the process or whatever, right? They're trying to, which, like, why should they, like, just be randomly deported without having a judge say, you know what, you deserve to be here, like, you've been here, you're working, you're following the laws. What's wrong with that person staying here?
There's a reason, because there are too many of them. It's basically we've basically been invaded for the last 4 years deliberately, and so this is an overreaction. And so I am conscious and aware of everything everyone is saying, and don't disagree with any of it. But this is an overreaction to a problem that was deliberately caused by the previous administration. And
did you just use the Thanos argument?
I'm sorry.
It was very deliberate action. In the same way that it is very, very deliberate that a lot of the blue states are making laws making it illegal to request an ID to vote. Illegal to request an ID to vote.
So
I'll say that a third time. Illegal for voting stations for them to request an ID.
States only have control over their elections. You know, like that's part of the system. That's part of the process. And I get what you're trying to say. You're trying to say the Democrats who had a bill to fix the border issue.
No.
That was bipartisanly agreed to. You haven't heard this, or you just want to say no?
No, because I already know, and that's been raised before. The border was left open. How long? How long was it before?
Pass?
Okay, so why did you need a bill when when Trump got in, the first thing he did was close the border? Why didn't he need a bill?
Why didn't Trump?
What bill was needed?
But Trump didn't close the border. He did need a bill,
how did it happen within days?
Why did the bill come in 2024, not in 2020, when it needed to be? Why did they leave the border open for 3 years, and then when they was running against Trump, all of a sudden act like that Trump knocked them out of passing a bill to close the border, and then when Trump got president, it took him 3 weeks to shut it completely down. Why didn't they do it in 3 weeks? They could have done the same thing.
Because it was a deliberate action. It was.
I think those terms are so loose here that we don't understand what you mean by opening and closing the border, because the border wasn't just open and running free. Even the Biden administration.
I pulled up the stats. I pulled up the stats here, so I get a moment. And it seems like it's holding at about 10 to 11 in almost every year. Like, here's the numbers I'm getting: is in 2000 it was 8.5, and that's the lowest I've seen it on this chart, I think. And then it gets up to 11.1 in 2005. So it's gone from 2000 to 2005, and it's gone up to now 11.1 million. And then it peaks in 2007 at 12.2. And then from then on, it keeps fluctuating 11, 11, 11, 10, 10, 10 through the 2020s. 10, 10, 10, 10, 10. It's pretty much the same number each year after year after year estimate. And then in 2022 and 2023, it's gone up by 1 million. So it's 11 and 11.7.
Also the reason why you need bills, the reason why you need bills,
10% up.
The reason why you need bills is because in order to do the shit that Trump is doing at the border, you need money. You need to be able to pay things. Congress is the one that organizes the purse. which means he's doing this. He's moving around funds. This is what Congress is getting pissed about. He's spending money out of other areas, and they're not giving him the reasons how and where the money's coming from. This is why you need bills, because Congress can then appropriate funds to do what you want. That's why you need a bill.
I'm aware of that.
So we had a 10% increase over that period of time. You spike in 07, 08 to Obama. He's the devil, but I bet it's gone down since then, apparently, right?
2023 is estimated to be quite high again, though.
The numbers just spiked.
That's still 2 years ago.
Yeah, they thought they were going
There's
to
no
come
reason
into
for
an
it.
they
Why
thought they
did
were
the
going to come
suddenness-
into a Kamala. They thought they were going to come into a Kamala presidency
Yeah.
that was going to be more lenient to them.
Well, there was also a lot of political. Wasn't Venezuela turning into
Oh.
a shit heap?
Well,
At
the
that
whole
time?
voting
Hasn't
thing.
there been like massive like runaway
Yeah.
hyperinflation in one of
It-
those South American
Well,
cities over
well,
the
Yeah, it's a
past
combination
voting-
of
10 years or
yeah.
something?
Well, the
It's
whole
a
voting
combination
thing
of
that
different-
you were talking about, that like you just saw the numbers. Those people apparently didn't vote for them, right? So like you just said it 5 times. They're allowed to vote without an ID. They're allowed to
Yes.
vote without an ID.
Yes.
Trump got elected, correct?
Well,
Are you able?
why?
Are you able
No,
to
yeah, so
register
it did-
without an ID? Are you able to register to vote without an ID?
You don't
No.
need an ID to vote. Why?
You can't
No,
register.
I said
You need
register.
an
I said,
ID to
are
get-
you able to register to vote?
I don't
without
know.
An ID?
I don't know.
So
What
can
I do know
understand-
is that they made it
Yes,
illegal.
because I didn't have to
to
use
acquire
mine
an-
to register.
They made it. I've said it 3 times already. The point is why
illegal to ask.
you
Yeah,
need your
maybe
ID
it's
to get alcohol at the store. You
So
need
there is a-
ID to.
There is a good reason for that, and it will deter certain voters and not others, right? So
Right.
so if you've got an inner city kid who's worried he might have warrants on him but still wants to have his voice heard, he gets to turn up and not have to show his ID, and many of them don't have ID and all of these things. So you'll still generally have your right wingers will still turn up because they're like mum and pops and got a car and it's always got their driver's license in their wallet, where other people who
Yeah.
go by multiple names or
Right. And they don't have warrants.
Sure. So there's a good reason why they want to do it. But let's just look at the psychology of, let's assume these people are coming across the border, and because the Obama and these leftist administrations have indeed, as it's saying here, spiking towards like 2023, which is, assume then maybe higher in 2024. And then what are they doing? So they're turning up to commit a federal crime, voting, pretending to be somebody. Do they know that person's not there? Because you don't want to turn up and accidentally give the wrong person's name, because you're not that person. You don't know what name to give. So the chance that you give the wrong name, or give the name and they're already there, or they're standing next to you, or somebody goes, "No, you're not. We've been in the same school you're a bloody Mexican. Why are you pretending to be Darlene who does the bake sale each year?" Right? You look like you should be a Jose or something. Why?
Darlene
just give me it. I'm Darlene, man. Just give it to me. Like,
Yeah, my name's Darlene Steinberg.
Right. It just doesn't make
Why-
sense that you're just going to have these illegals turn up to vote, because the chance that they would get the last thing they're going to be doing is engaging at all with the infrastructure of the state. They're going to be getting a cash in hand job to deliver pallets or something and get over to their friend Marcos and try to make a go of it. But their last thing they're doing is committing voter ID fraud. Like, what's in it for them? They're a 1 in 3 million, 300 million chance of shifting the
If everyone knows it can be done, and they're highly motivated, as those type of people typically are.
Are they?
Yeah.
To make 1/300 millionth of a difference to the outcome of an election, they're willing to throw away their shot and get kicked out of. But they get like fingerprinted and photographed when they get kicked out, right? So
I mean,
if
usually-
they got caught and got kicked out from that point, they would never be allowed back into America again. But they're willing to waste that one shot at a good life doing something colossally stupid, which you very well might get caught for 1/300 millionth of a chance to make a difference in the outcome of an election for some group that claim that they have your best interests at heart.
Well, there's a guy who was just videoed throwing large rocks at passing federal vehicles on camera with multiple people videoing him. What risks was he taking?
But
It's
he's a
just
kid who lived,
people are. Yeah, people
But he's a
if
kid
they're
who
highly
lives there.
motivated.
Wait, yeah, is that guy an illegal immigrant?
It's quite possible.
Right.
He's just going to
But
become
we're talking
Who
about
knows?
illegal immigrants committing a crime by doing a vote. So you're bringing up some random guy throwing rocks is not quite really relatable.
No, what we're talking about is the bizarre situation where you have to produce an ID to get alcohol at the store, but you don't have to produce an ID to vote in an election.
You don't have to.
And
in
you're
Australia.
just singing past that.
Is
I
there?
don't understand why. It's
Because
just
Trump
so
won.
freaking
Because
weird.
Donald Trump won the election, did he
really.
not?
But do you really think it's probable that I think I laid out a very good case there. Do you really think it's probable that an illegal immigrant, one of the first things they're going to do, or something they might do within their first year of turning up in the country after desperately trying to avoid the police and any people asking for their identity, is turn up and commit voter fraud? Because that's what your case rests on. I'm suggesting that's preposterous. That would never happen.
I didn't suggest that. You're saying that it's illegals doing it. I didn't say that.
So
what I'm saying is that the whole concept. What would motivate someone to pass a law preventing people from checking your ID to vote in an election?
We just told you.
Imagine what the motivation is to do something as insane as that.
To allow for people to participate in the voting process.
Yeah, it's not that complicated.
But
I'm sorry. That's just. But explain how it would work. How would it work? How would I vote as somebody else? That's what's necessary for your conspiracy to work.
It's not a conspiracy. It's not a conspiracy. I don't want Jordan any conclusion. I'm not saying it's illegals doing it. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying this. I'm stating the facts.
Then why
you're making all the connections, and you're saying this, and this is your conspiracy. I'm not saying anything.
Do you know the history of voting in America? Like, do you know the history? Like, have you heard of the poll tax before? Do you know what that was?
What do you mean?
Do you know what the poll tax, POLL?
Yeah.
Tax. Do you know what that was?
In America?
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
So it was a period of time in which you had to pay money before you could vote. That was a law that was passed, and it was then repealed. And then there was literacy tests where you had to prove that you could read before you could vote and things like that. So there's always
that literacy test was a bitch. I've seen several of the literacy tests that have survived. Man, that would have been rough for a lot of the people that I know today.
People couldn't even do it today. But that's the thing, though. So when you look at the purposes of these things, it was always to, like, hey, we don't want certain groups of people voting, right? So when these laws are passed, they are considered with a lot of history intact of a past that has weaponized voting laws. The ID one specifically is one that I see your case. You're like, why wouldn't you have to do that? But we've given you reasons, and they've actually considered those reasons as they made those laws.
So what you are saying is that because of they required literacy tests to vote in the 1800s?
No, that was 1950s. 1950s was literacy tests.
1950s?
Yes, literacy tests. Louisiana, I think it even extended in some areas into the 60s. Alabama, Mississippi.
Louisiana, you can understand.
I can't understand it, but at the same time,
I'm just sorry.
Yeah, I know.
Louisiana.
I mean, to be fair, they should do DNA tests in Louisiana when it comes to voting, just to make sure the crocodiles, just make sure the alligators aren't in on it.
No, but the thing is, there's a history of voting laws, and the ID, like I said, they consider all these factors you're talking about, and the outcome that you're speaking of a person that is illegal in this country, that's going to risk it all, like Eggs was saying, to have an outcome. You didn't even see that in this election, and you're saying, for 4 years they're pumping people in, for this purpose, essentially. It's not that's not what it is right now.
So let me ask you this question: what is the risk if no ID is required to vote?
What's the risk if no IDs?
Where's the risk? You just schlep up to a voting booth and vote.
It pushes out poor people.
I really think
again,
I can't believe it. I can't believe it.
You can't just show up without giving a name. So, what name are you giving as a person
My
that's?
point. Yeah, you have to be. I am so and so at so address. You've got to get that right.
You do.
And that's the point I
And you
keep
do
making.
have to be a registered voter. If
illegals
you're not
or
registered, if you're not
sneaky
registered to vote,
Democrats-
it's thrown away.
Yeah. So you've got to give a name and address combo, which is fine because you can look those up or just like steal people's mail. You can find that, but then you need to make sure that they're not there, nor does anybody behind the desk or anywhere know who Maureen or something is. And you got to look like a Maureen, right? You can't be like clearly Jose or clearly a black inner city youth in the whitest suburb ever. So you would end up with this really complex operation of like people in wigs and shit just turning up at exactly the right place at the right time to slide in a vote because we know Maureen's out of town.
I get why you're trying to excuse this.
You would also expect that the Democrats to have won the majority vote in this last election, because you're saying for the past 4 years all these people have been brought in so they can vote in the election, millions and millions and millions, and yet less people voted for fucking what's her name, Kamala, than Biden.
What's her name?
They just keep throwing away elections.
This is correct.
The Democrats don't want to be elected.
It's Kamala.
Real quick. So Republicans keep getting caught trying to vote twice or voting for their relative, as a relative or something. And the reason is they're told it's super easy to do and nobody ever gets caught. And then when they go and try to do it, they wind up getting caught. So, yeah, it's actually not the problem that, as described, is not remotely what's going on. Voter fraud typically happens in places like Appalachia, where voting is done by mail and somebody goes around handing out money. These are for semi-local, or state elections, not federal elections. And you bring your mail-in ballot to the person. He watches you fill it out for whoever the party pick is, and then he pays you, $20.
It's so funny you say it, Omni, because another thing they give out is liquor, and they actually had to outlaw the sale of liquor on election day up there because people would buy fists of liquor for a vote. And give
America,
it out to people.
America, everybody.
It was like that in Appalachia. He's telling the truth. It's crazy up there.
What I'm saying is, it ain't what the conversation around voter fraud isn't real. It doesn't. I'm sorry to say, it doesn't happen the way it's presented.
And when it gets exposed, it shows how hard it would be to get it right, because you find cases like there are a couple of really funny ones where it's pro-Trumpers who were certain that there was lots of this voter fraud going on in the direction of Democrats. And so they went out, and what did they do? I think they voted ahead one couple voted ahead in the ballot and then turned up as well and said, no, we didn't turn it in. And another one tried to mail in ballots for somebody else, I think, and both times got caught, even though they were like just this husband and wife operation trying to swing the election in the direction of Trump. And what I think they show really effectively actually is it's a really dangerous game, because if that person turns up to the voter booth, they'll catch you. Or in the other case, if you've already voted somewhere else, right? So if Maureen
that was like the funny thing with the firm that Trump hired to do the recount or whatever, found out, actually you lost by more votes than we originally tabulated.
Just go to another country and say what some of the states in the United States are doing as far as elections. Just go say those words. Just say those words. You don't need to provide an ID to vote. I get what you're saying. But there's a bunch of laws like that I keep hearing about. I just good grief. Try to explain
and then tell them, but you do need to show who you are in order to register to vote.
Okay. Well, yeah. I mean, it is. It is sort of a what's the word? Academic because, yeah. And I think the only reason he won is because people didn't want another 2016.
So how do you do ID then in a postal vote?
That's why they love posts. Yeah, that's why they were really, really pushing mail-in ballots heavy, because it's more difficult, isn't it? But I don't know.
Yeah, so we're not required to show ID in a.
So you request a vote, a postal ballot. That ballot is in your name. Like the coding on it is specifically for you. You get that ballot in the mail, presumably, and you have to fill it out and sign it. And they've rejected members of my family for not having, the signature looking right. That has, and it's my dad, and his signature just didn't match what they had. So, they can go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, Omni. I was just going to jump onto another thought. I'm just thinking this through. I'm not making any. I'm just looking at it again. I actually can't vote because I haven't got citizenship yet. That's my plan. So I actually can't vote yet. But skin in the game I do have because I live here. But I was going to say, what do you think caused? What do you think happened then with the election? Because Trump had just everyone against him, and he still managed to win. What do you think was going on in the country that
Democrats are a den of vipers. The Democrats are incompetent and backbiting, and obviously just a pit of snakes who are interested only in themselves, because they put that blithering reach. What are we calling it again? Red Cloud? Recharge. That man who desperately needed a recharge. He needed a recharge because he was slow.
The polls were vastly they jacked up the poll numbers, and the media really ran with a lot of wrong polls and stuff too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah.
So the problem with the polls is it'll say Kamala versus Trump, and then the other issue is, I was just gonna say real quick, was that too many fucking Democrats want to fucking vote for third-party candidates or fucking random fucking people. They don't believe in the lesser of two evils when it comes to a two-party system, which is the fucking reality we live in.
Yeah. So can you find it amusing that so many Democrats voted for RFK Jr. just for him to be in the Trump White House?
So I'm not. Okay,
yeah, that was so good, wasn't it?
Well, if I can get my point out.
Yep.
So people on this server should be very well aware of a certain trend in our lives, which is that we don't all live in the same reality. There are vast swaths of America who don't share, we don't agree on what facts are. So, for example, the idea that the Democrats are a complete pit of snakes and they're all backbiting and what Egg said. I don't agree with that. I don't agree that there are thousands or millions of illegals voting, but there are people who completely believed that if they voted for Trump, the price of eggs would come down.
Yes,
who absolutely believed that if they voted for Trump, the price of gas would come down, that manufacturing would come back, that only the bad illegals would get deported. Okay? There are people who believed all of that Trump would end the government waste. Never mind the fact that he ran, the biggest deficit. He expanded the deficit greatly. That he would literally make America great again, which, was a Ku Klux Klan slogan. But there are people who legitimately believe that. And in this server, we should understand one of the reasons why I'm here is because we have an epistemological crisis where people do not agree on what is factually so. So there are tons of people who bought the Trump, persona, that he was, this upright guy who would, cleanse the government of all of the bad things, which doesn't actually work. I mean, He's not. He's hiring putting in place far worse people, and B, trying to move into what he perceives would be a beneficial dictatorship, essentially, where he's like, yeah, I might run for a third term. Sure, forget the Constitution. Who cares about the Constitution? So, and we don't agree on what happened on Jan 6th. Like, most Republicans don't know about the fake electors slate that were sent, or how that was, baldly and utterly illegal the way they tried to do it. Most Republicans have never heard that, even though it's been well reported in the news, correctly reported. Like, we don't agree on what facts are.
Correctly reported.
Same thing. Yes.
The January 6th committee. I mean, you could watch them live.
Right.
I mean, you have people testifying and people on Trump's side testifying.
Yes.
Bill Barr testified in this and made indicting statements against Donald Trump. Bill Barr.
It is incredibly clear that it was an attempted coup, that they did have a plan for an attempted coup, and it didn't work, but it didn't work by inches. So
must have got the Bill Barr's kids or something.
Yeah, right. That right. They believe that. Right. I mean,
because they showed up for an insurrection with no guns.
They just believe.
Yeah.
There are people out there.
That's a good point.
Maybe get the Brits.
Crap I've never even heard.
Maybe the Brits.
I don't think any of them turned up.
I want to get. Guys,
you have
let me finish. Let me finish real quick. I know I ranted. Let me just finish this. We are on a server where people believe the Earth is flat. We are on a server where people believe that Trump did not try for an insurrection. These are way more similar than you might think.
That's all cool. And I don't disagree with a lot of what you said, but there are also people who believe things that we can't even talk about because you've banned those topics in this server, as has Discord.
You're damn right.
Right.
Yes.
And
yes. You're fucking correct.
The problem is
that we're not a problem. Wait, hold on a second.
Even. Wait, let me finish my thought before you think.
A non-streamed channel where you can go and talk about that to your heart's content.
He's not trying to criticize you. Let him get through the thing.
All right.
Not trying to incite, because as you know, I've kept to those rules. I haven't said anything.
I'm done.
And I respect and keep to your requirements and your expectations for this server. It's your server. You make the rules. But what I'm saying is that there are people who believe all manner of different things, and to point from a left point of view that only people on the right have all of these whacked out views is. I'm just going to say it's inaccurate.
Yeah. Okay.
But the problem is that we are hampered by you and hampered by YouTube, which is run by leftists, because they don't want to say certain things because, right. And I can't even say the words. That's how bad it is. That's how much control we are under. You are under the same control, but you are hampered and you are not allowed to even allow a discussion on the topics because YouTube won't permit you to do it.
Yes.
You are under the same control and you are happy to do it. That's the thing. So to say that only right-wingers have these cuckoo ideas and they're off the rails is completely false. And you've constructed this sort of system to perpetuate that idea and prevented us from even saying the words to combat it. And that's why Trump won. Because what you've systematically done on the left is try to control our thoughts and control our words. But you can control our words, but you can't control our thoughts. Not yet. So if you could, you damn well would. But right now, you can't.
Well, I'm glad to hear it. What shape do you think the Earth is, Red Cloud?
It is a sphere, an oblate spheroid, roughly 37 miles wider at the equator than it is at the poles.
So is that it? 37 miles.
Not much. It's so slightly oblate that you can't actually detect it when you look at it.
From the age of the Earth.
Something you should be aware of.
There you go.
It is entirely possible that your views on this other thing are the same as a flat earther's, and you're just wrong about it.
It's entirely possible that I'm wrong about human biology. It's entirely possible I'm wrong about a bunch of other different things. Yes.
Well, I'm going to discussion VC only topics.
Okay. But yeah, so it is possible. But what I'm saying is, though, when I was trying to imagine what on earth happened that Trump was basically had everyone against him and still managed to win, I'm sort of vocalizing. I'm not angry. I just wanted to make a point. That's why. Is because people are very frustrated that they are not allowed to say things that they should be allowed to say in a free society.
I think that we've always put some limits on it, but I do get because what you say is similar to what Issa says, where he sort of bemoans a kind of you can't be free to have certain thoughts. I think there is a limit when people talk about, like, there are ones that cause harm, and I think that allows us to invoke a harm principle, that we say that when one person threatens another person, for example, we know that can often lead to violence, where it would be hard to question who is the aggressor. You know, if somebody said, I'm about to punch you in the face, it sort of doesn't matter beyond that point who punched first. So we don't allow people to say those things. And I think that allows people to invoke a harm principle, and then maybe I think we're trying to figure out, where do we run too far with it? What forms of thought or speech can we and should we limit? And I think we just always stumble around in the dark on that. Like, there used to be legit discussions about whether it should be okay for people in public to say shit and fuck, right? Or curse the Lord, right? And I think the side of sense they're just trying to slow things, like just not rush ahead too far, because that stuff's, you know, there can be hurtful things, right?
You notice that everything I said there was
things that can get propagated as well, which I think can be problematic.
Yeah, I hope people understood what I was saying was said without hatred, without malice, and without bigotry.
Yes, but Red Tape, you understand the big problem is that most of that language is coming from a place of bigotry and hatred.
I wanted to make sure I said that because it's very often perceived in that way, and I don't agree with that, because I know people who espouse views that aren't based on hatred or bigotry, but they're based on what they view as reality. But I tell you, I'm really encouraged, first of all, by the political discussion we had, which remained largely amicable, as amicable as these things can ever be. So that's a really, really good sign.
They give me a pretty hard time over my bricks.
We did give you a hard time over your bricks.
So Omni, I really appreciate you in that regard. So
Omni's waiting for you in the bottom VC channel.
Oh. Okay,
to have a discussion about the topics that can't go out on YouTube.
Sure. Okay, where is he? All right. I don't see him. Which one is he in?
Oh, you may not have. You need to go to the role assignment and click on the VC only topics.
Okay, thank you. Discuss VC only topics. No, I don't know.
React. Just click on the little blue box, and there you go. You'll see extra.
Yeah, I do want to say real quick, guys. I did lose my temper a while ago about the bricks, and I apologize to anybody that I got mad and said anything to.
Cool.
I'll try to be better.
Good man.
In the role assignment, there's two blue boxes down the bottom. If you click on both of those, you will see extra channels. Then voice channels down the very bottom of the server.
Okay, I'm looking. You can hear me? You can't hear me.
Yes, we can.
You can. Oh, there he is. Okay, I think that's where it is. Here you go. Thank you.
That's interesting.
So
have we like concluded that what's happening in California is terrible and a disaster for democracy, and Trump is overstepping states' rights? Something that conservatives brag about being very adamantly pro, yet they're willing to trample anytime they see fit now. Have we agreed to that? Because I think we should agree to that.
I agree to it. I mean,
100% agree.
Like I think that if you're from another country and you're here, but you have the only crime you've committed is coming across the border. If you haven't committed any other crime and you're shown that you've been trying to work, trying to do whatever you can, you're not out causing trouble, then I don't see any reason why you shouldn't be put in the process of getting your card. But if you've committed a crime since you've been here, I think then you should just be sent back.
All right, Cole, question for you. What would your message be then to people who are defending ICE going in, rounding up people, not giving them their due process before being removed from the country, and, like you say, haven't done anything apart from illegally enter the country?
My message would be that a big majority of us who, are on the right, came from immigrants, and we need to understand that people are escaping really bad countries, and we don't need to be so fast to just say you don't belong here, get out. We need to be a little bit human about things. That's what I think. That's what I would say.
So do you find it ironic that people are literally just first generational Americans are, regardless of whether they come in legally or illegally, are trying to support this, what Trump's doing?
Yeah, I've found a lot of things ironic in what's been going on. I just think I was trying to think of how to put it. I just think that you got all these people who have made it here. A lot of them has lost loved ones. Some of them's lost their children to get here. Some of them's lost their parents, their brothers or sisters to get here. And I also know that when it comes to authority, groups of police officers and stuff or ICE agents can very quickly turn into like a frat house style group. A fraternity that it just happens, even though, they're a lot of them just trying to do their job, they're ICE agents, but still you have that happen. And I hate to see a blanket removal of people when some of those people could be good, productive people for this country.
I don't know why, like, Americans. Sorry, go.
Right, so I'm going to use a stereotype here, Cole, right? Against you for this hypothetical.
Okay.
Right, so the right are always screaming about family values and such like, right? And I'm guessing you support family values as well.
Yeah.
So what justification have you heard from people on the right that are justifying women being removed from the country without even having time to organize care for their children that were born in the States?
That's what I don't see that there's any justification for taking people out that the only crime they committed was crossing the border, but they came here with their family and they're actively trying to live a better life and they're not out committing crimes. Then I can't see any reason whatsoever to
but you must have heard the people on the right though that are just saying it doesn't matter if they've got children born here. It doesn't matter if they crossed the border illegally. Therefore, they're getting removed. They had time. They knew that Trump was elected. They knew this was going to happen. They had time to leave, but they didn't.
Yeah, the guy Stephen Miller is demanding 3,000 arrests a day from ICE, and this is Stephen Miller.
Is that, by the way? arresting them and processing them, feeding them for months until they get processed, and then sending them back with tickets. How expensive? Do Americans know how the government is like spending their hard-earned money?
No. The thing, that's the problem. They're not telling us how they're spending the money. That's the problem Congress is having with these oversight committees. No one is telling them where they're getting the money from. They're taking it from different fucking areas, and it's basically they're going to be running out of money soon. That's the thing. The fiscal year is coming up in like 4 months or whatever. It's like,
I don't know, like I'm sorry.
Look at the bill. Look at the bill that just passed the House, and the number of people that are coming out. Oh, we didn't know this was in the bill, even though we voted for it.
In fairness, they did rush that through. I think intentionally. They didn't want people to look too close at it.
Well, a lot of people on the left was like, in my situation, the way I looked at it, I only had two choices, and I picked the one that I felt like was better for the country, even though I didn't feel like it was anywhere near going to be that great for the country. I still felt like it was better for the country to vote for Trump than it was to vote for Harris.
Right. So, and what was your 5 main reasons why you thought Trump was going to be better than Harris?
Number one, I followed both sides, and it was almost going on 2 months before she done her first like sit down interview. She couldn't answer questions very good. When it come to Trump, he did have these things that he wanted to do when it come to jobs, when it come to trying to save money, because there's one truth that a lot of people don't talk about. If we don't get this national debt under control, in about 20 years, it's going to reach almost, or it will reach $100 trillion, because it's just going to keep inflating. I know. I'm not saying that he's not making it worse. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is, sometime or another, one side or the other, or both sides, is going to have to come together, and we have to get this spending in this country under control, or this country will dissolve. Point blank.
All right, so please explain to me then, considering his first term, that the amount that Trump raised the deficit, how you thought he was the right person to come in and try to reduce that spending.
Because I watched Joe Biden for the previous 4 years. Absolutely, him and Kamala Harris, they absolutely obliterated money. They got $2 trillion. They got $2 trillion loans. They literally was supposed to build all of these electric charging stations. They built 7, and had billions of dollars to do it. There was all these other things that they had all this money for and failed, and I just wasn't going to put my vote down for that again. I watched Joe Biden spend too much money. Wasn't going to do it again.
But Cole, you said you asked for you said this is one of the reasons why you thought Trump would be better. But Trump added more in the previous term than Biden did in his term. So I don't understand how that's one of your reasons for if that's your worry. How I don't understand your reasoning.
Because they caused inflation to go through the roof, and they've about starved me and my kids to death over the last 4 years.
Businesses caused inflation to go through the roof because they were racketeering during COVID.
Guys, y'all can debate it. I'm dropping out. There's no winning here for me against a bunch of leftists. So I don't want to get mad again, guys. I got mad while I'm trying to stay calm. I just soon drop out.
If your kids are nearly starving to death, that means that you must be on SNAP benefits, right? Which is what Trump is trying to take away.
No, I'm not on SNAP benefits. I make damn good money, but still, I got 3 kids. I got 3 kids that I raised by myself, and it costs a lot of money to feed 3 teenagers. A lot. Don't you think
the Democrats would have policies?
I'm dropping out. I'm done. I'm dropping out. I answered the last question. I wasn't going to.
No, before you go though, listen. Thanks for answering the questions. It's appreciated.
So I don't know why Americans think that here in Europe, immigration is also not a problem, but it's probably worse than in America for sure. The way we process these people is probably worse, right? But the fact of the matter is, we don't do this Gestapo shit, right? Where immigrants are already here, we go door to door and try to ship them out. And I'll tell you, Europe has much worse immigration problems than America. You could learn a thing, and I'm not saying this condescendingly. Like, Americans could learn a thing on how to handle the situations and also retain optics, right? Where you don't look like fucking Nazis.
You're assuming they're interested in anything. Like, there was plenty of information out there. Like, I don't know objectively how anybody could think Trump would have been a better fit. Like, all the information is out there. Every time I talk to someone who voted for Trump, it's always like the impressions that they have. I don't know where they're based on.
Well, to re-raise Omni's points, you are in a server that where people believe in a flat Earth with all that evidence out there also. So
that's fair. But that's kind of my point, is people aren't really interested in investigating things honestly.
Well, they think investigating is searching for like the key thing that they want to see. So like they'll do a Google search for show me voter fraud in Georgia, and that's the only thing they'll see. They won't.
So funny that you guys think that's what we do. We do the same thing y'all do. We saw the same thing y'all saw.
No, you didn't.
You saw it. Wait. Did you see Rudy? Did you see Rudy Giuliani in court openly saying, "I lied, and it's my right to lie about those women that did that"?
I think that was in reference to the 2020
the Ruby
election.
Freeman, Ruby Freeman, where Rudy Giuliani, because that's the video I was referring to, the one with Ruby Freeman, where Giuliani said, "Yes, I lied about what I said. I lied, and it was my right to lie about it because of freedom of speech." That was his defense in court.
Wait, what was this about? Sorry, I missed the explanation.
Rudy Giuliani was sued by Ruby Freeman and that other lady, like I think it was her daughter, because those were like the women that were in the video of like the apparently ballots being put underneath the desk and being brought back up. And he said that those two women were committing fraud and blah, blah, blah. And when they sued him in court, his defense was, "Yes, I lied. I was not telling the truth. I said that, but it was my right to have freedom of speech." That was his defense in court.
Oh, okay, yeah. She was an election worker, I think, in the state of Georgia. Her and her daughter, or something like that, were involved.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, got it.
Also, Fox, $800 billion because they lied on TV.
That's the reason what's his face quit, wasn't it?
Bill.
When the text messages come out, we have this lunatic coming on. What was her name? Sweeney or Sydney Powell or whatever. This lunatic is saying this is what's happening. I can't believe we have this person on. But yeah, let's let her like tell her lies.
Yeah, it was One American News. They actually, after that lawsuit, if you watch some of the programming, they got really squeamish. Anytime when that pillow guy was on there, he tried to bring it up again. They like shit themselves and quickly tried to change the subject. As far as, I mean, he doesn't want to engage, and I don't want to force him. But the whole thing about Kamala couldn't answer a question, that's, if we're putting the two side by side, that's absolutely not.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, when has Trump ever coherently answered a question?
Yeah, I mean, probably just worldview. I like you, Cole. Oh, he's stepping. It's probably just worldview. I mean, man, that's what people vote is their worldview. Basically, it doesn't really matter.
Well, he's deafened because he doesn't want to hear the things that he says he doesn't look for, or that he says he does look for.
And the main criticism I always hear that Kamala didn't really have a platform to run on. Like she was just Biden 2.0, but she was pretty specific about some programs she wanted to implement. And as far as specifics, like the most specific thing Trump said before the election was he had concepts of a plan. I mean, that was almost the best thing he said. It was at least coherent. Anyway, whole thing pisses me off.
What are we doing, man? The reason I found Flat Earth is because I didn't want to talk about politics.
Yeah, you can change the subject. So how about that Space Force? Tucker Carlson, yeah.
That's when he left. Oh, right.
Yeah, I think it was his messages that got Fox in trouble.
A whole lot of things got Fox in trouble. A whole lot of things. But their license should be left alone. But CBS, put on TV 2 different answers of Kamala's question, so their license should be pulled, but not Fox. No.
Yeah, I found Flat Earth like a year and a half ago, 2 years maybe almost, and I was like, oh great, now I don't have to talk about politics and God. But little did I know that's the subtext running through everything
Yeah, I think that was about the same time. There was a room opened up in the politics server.
Oh, that's
Curiosity
really
got the better of me. Yeah.
Not the politics and religion server, the politics server?
Politics and religion came later. I actually saw when that one opened up. Apparently, they had a room a couple years prior to that, but I saw them. That was back when first guy I talked to was a guy named Spakeface.
Yeah, his name's Lee.
Relatively, yeah, that guy. He was relatively chill most of the time.
Yeah, he's hilarious.
If you knew how to talk to him, yeah. But then, I don't know. I mean, I went from politics and religion, mostly debating consciousness and free will, to relitigating whether the moon is round. I don't know if that was a step in the right direction, but
I started with like the atheism versus theism things with Doug Dawkins and Tom Rabbit. Yeah. Then I moved to politics and philosophy, and then I ended up in Flat Earth. It's crazy.
Yeah, kind of same with me, because as a surveyor, it's kind of hard for me to ignore the flat earthers. like, come on. But then I also wanted to see if I could find sovereign citizens on Discord, but they don't identify themselves, so it's kind of tricky. But the sovereign citizen thing is also another thing that fascinates me.
We do have a couple, right? I think.
Oh yeah.
Is Don here? I think Don identifies as one, right? No, it wasn't Don. It was Prove Me Wrong. That guy. That guy is like.
Yeah, I think he was.
So.
Does anyone watch like those like videos of like courtroom things like with like Judge Simpson and stuff like that? Like just destroying sovereign citizens.
Yeah. That Texas lawyer had a couple clips as well.
The one that wears like the bow tie, right? The bald guy.
Yeah, that guy. What the hell?
Speaking of Darth Dawkins, I think I recall hearing a rumor that Omni had some association with Darth some time ago.
I think it was a mod on his server.
Okay, yeah, that's what I heard.
I feel like it's a law of inevitability that someone on Discord encounters Darth Dawkins, at least if they were here like a year ago.
Oh yeah, he's yeah. I heard rumors from multiple people about him before I ever met him.
Had my run-ins with him.
I'm on his troll list because I asked him if you came across an animal that God created 5 seconds ago, would you think, like a full-grown animal, would you think that, that animals existed for a few years? And he said yes. And I was like, okay, so then what's your problem with God creating a universe that appears billions of years old? And he was like, well, that would be a lie. And I'm like, but the animal isn't a lie? I don't understand.
I don't know how many minds, Darth Dawkins changes. But I do know somebody who did change his mind. He seemed to be, he says he was an atheist or agnostic, and then he ran up against presuppositionalism and talking to Darth, and he says that he now believes in God because of those arguments. But he feels like he's gonna go to hell, and so he's kind of he's in a terrible position. Like, he accepts the reality now that he lives in a world where there is a God, but now he thinks he's gonna go to hell. So he's kind of
Well, then he doesn't believe in the same God that Darth Dawkins believes in.
Oh, okay.
So
that never gets to. I mean, he doesn't really like to talk about the specific God, right?
the only thing I heard Darth admit he was wrong about is when he said that COVID was only going to have like a few thousand deaths. He's like, I was a little bit wrong about that.
Progress, I guess.
Hey guys, can I ask you a question?
You just did.
Oh, damn. Okay, shit. By the way, man, fuck, what's your name?
Manufactotum.
Manufacto. Ah, that's right. You sound like a reasonable guy. You're a Glober, right? I heard you like debate with Globers.
As it happens, yes.
Alright. And you're like on the left wing of issues, I'm guessing, politically?
It depends who I'm talking to, but probably most people in here I would be to the left of, yes.
Yeah. Well, what do you think of the Trump's military parade, which is unprecedented, right?
Yeah, that's cringe as fuck.
Yeah, I mean, this is like
It's not
authoritarian
surprising.
stuff.
Yeah, I mean, he's not been too ashamed to say he looks up to dictators around the world.
Right.
So it shouldn't be surprising, I don't think.
I mean, I do think after this, he definitely, like, we can call him a fascist, right? Because the thing, like, that takes it out of the box, the cult of personality. Because he has this on his birthday. And he's like, oh, it's a coincidence. Yeah, just a coincidence he has this military parade on his birthday.
I'll tell you what locked it in for me was the loyalty test when Doge came in and started firing people.
Oh, yeah. And it's ironic right now, like Doge was like, oh, we need to cut unnecessary government spending. And then we have the fucking parade. Right? We have to
I'm telling you, I don't think Doge saved us a freaking penny. Not a single penny. Between
probably the cost
firings, and then the rehirings, the cost, of all that shit, like the court processing of the temporary restraining orders and all, like it. I don't see how it saved us money. I just don't think so.
It didn't. Probably cost you more money.
That's what I'm saying.
Without the probably. It absolutely did. And they're not done yet. I think I think Doge is to be sunset in July of next year, if I remember correctly.
Sunset.
So they got another. Yeah, they're gonna shut it down in like June of 2026, June or July.
Well, Trump doesn't care, right? And he's not gonna be reelected. I mean, there's no way he's gonna be reelected, right? But
well, I mean, if you ask Trump, he's at least flirting with the idea, running a third term.
Yeah, which itself is like just like
so
it's really good.
Well, I was going to say the scariest, I think, most legal way that he could be president for a third term is other people like run for vice president or president, and he gets elected as Speaker of the House, and then those two people decide to step down.
Can they do that?
You don't have to be elected Speaker of the House.
You have to, but you have to be appointed by the Senate, right? Oh no, House. You said. Wait, isn't the Senate? You mean the Senate? No, surely it's the Senate.
I'm just saying you don't have to be a congressman to be Speaker of the House.
But is the Speaker in the House the third in line?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah.
I thought it was the
it is.
Senate. No. But you guys have the House, the Senate, and the Congress.
No, Congress is the Senate and the House.
Yeah. In some catastrophic situation that the president and vice president are both killed or whatever should happen, the next in line to run the country is the Speaker of the House.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild that you don't have to be an elected congressman to be Speaker of the House, and yet you're third in line for the presidency.
I didn't know that.
Well, it's a pretty out there situation. I don't know that they would have thought of that.
Because remember, like, that's what, like, a couple of the Republicans were saying, like, oh, you should make Trump Speaker of the House, like, blah, blah.
You're a robot.
Okay, I thought that was me.
No, he's robotic.
Yeah, there was, like, I remember, like rumors of Republicans wanting Trump to be Speaker of the House, like during, I think, Biden's administration or whatever.
Interesting. Never heard that.
Good evening. Anybody around?
Good evening.
Manufactotum. Yeah, but manufactotum. To the common topic we have. About the little files that I have to trace sunray. Do you think it will launch on this server or not? Because apparently I don't see so many interest in it.
I think so. I mean, I was interested in it for my whole Eratosthenes thing. I wanted to ask you a couple questions about it, but days kind of got away from me.
But you can ask now, VC seems quiet.
Yeah, well, I'm not at my computer. Mostly I wanted to understand, because I wanted to input some of that data that I had. And I was looking at some of the pages where the data seems to be input from, and I was having a hard time making sense of it. Because I wanted to do like a couple of iterations. I don't know if you remember, the stuff that I had was across three different longitudes, and I wanted to map those out separately and do the equivalent on a flat Earth. I guess the equivalent on the flat Earth is at the bottom automatically.
Yeah. Alors, attends. I don't remember these 4 data. I have the 23 or 24, I don't remember, data point like you gave me. I don't remember a set of 4 only.
Yeah. I don't know if it was just like a screenshot that I put in the PDF. I have the actual Excel files. I can pass those to you.
Yeah, but when you will be on your computer, you send me back those specific data, and I can isolate them and make a display only for it.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'll do that. Sometime tonight. I think I'm here till 6. Holy shit, 4:30.
Yeah. One question. There is one place I cannot place. No long or so long, no long. No long. Do you know which town it is, which longitude it was?
No long? Oh, are you working with the Slice Arcane data?
Yes. Is the one you gave me.
Okay, then I gave you like the total wrong thing. I mentioned his stuff. That's sort of what inspired me to do my thing, but I have completely different data. I have no idea. No, to answer your question, I don't know. There's a video of that. He might mention it in there. But no, I don't know where those places are.
Yeah. But also in the data I gave, I simplify it. I put all the sun ray to be at 180 south or 180 or 0 north for the one who are in the southern hemisphere. But it will be also important for accuracy to have the correct azimuth of the sun.
Oh, I see.
You know,
okay.
yeah, due to the analemma, the solar noon is not all the time at 180, and this few degree of deviation from the geographic source make it deviate a little bit the ray.
Well, in theory, I mean, Slice Arcane, both he and I did the data collection on the equinox. So I think that wouldn't affect even the analemma. That's like a year-long process, right? As far as deviation goes, I think putting it, because when I did it on SunCalc, I was actually looking at the direction. It shows you where the sun is, like from that point. And I'm pretty sure the solar noon that I used, the culmination specifically, I think was always 0.
Okay. That might be a special to the equinox, but I don't remember. In the equinox, it is when the analemma cross.
It could be, yeah. I mean, that would make sense.
But I'm not sure this one is all-time 180 degrees south. Because due to the just the opposite side of the equinox, they are not. Yeah, well, I need to revise my analemmas to do that, but it will be a thing to verify also in the prediction if at the equinox. But it is made not for the equinox; it is made for any day of the year. So that will be important due to the deviation of the source.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I think you could probably, if you got, I'm trying to think. I mean, ultimately, what you would end up with. So if you took several days over the year, including the azimuth angle, and you plotted this out, you could even like make an animation out of it. Essentially, what you're doing is you're making something like Stellarium or Sandbox. I mean, the fact that you can make that is kind of the point. That's the proof in and of itself, I guess. But I don't know, Stellarium and Sandbox aren't convincing to people. I guess the argument is, have you done it yourself? So yeah, I mean,
yeah, I did it myself. But after you have the flat earthers, they can argue that I model the sun ray to be straight, especially on flat earth. But if they want, they can give me a model for the refraction on flat earth to make the object appear lower than it is. And I will be happy with it to try to incorporate it.
I wouldn't hold your breath if I were you.
But no, I'm not holding. No, asking mathematics to a flat earther, it's something in a realm of I lost my word. Of no, mythology. Mythology, voilà, mythology.
Yeah. I mean, in theory, Taylor's trying to do something like that. I'm not too clear on their methodology, but I don't know how exacting she's going to be.
Oh, no. It is funny. You will have a flat earther who will get a formula out of context and with a letter and everything, but when you ask them to apply it in a real life, there is nobody.
Yeah.
Like to apply the snail formula. Never have seen them trying to apply it.
No, thankfully. I feel like that would be frustrating to watch.
Yeah. Changing a little bit subject, but flat earthers, they all time talk about the law of perspective. Did any of them cite any source where I can find this law of perspective that work for flat earth? I know the law of perspective. I'm an engineer. I know how to draw, and I have learned how to make a perspective on drawing, but I seem to not find the law they want.
No, they call it perspective. I think what they're typically
have
talking
a
about
law
is
because their perspective laws contradict themselves. They point to corpuscular rays and don't think it's perspective, but then they know railroad tracks are parallel and they point to them, saying, "Look at them converge." So they don't have any laws.
I had asked many times, what are those laws of perspective, but none of them is able to direct me to it.
I got people. I'll be right back.
Okay. I will.
And none of them would be willing to give their latitude and longitude position, even though because they know it'll identify where they are, verge as they go north and south from the equator. They give you real positions, but our positions say they converge, but they don't converge. I don't know. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, it is. When I finish with my CellNav project and the Eratos 10 project that I have with Manufactotum, I want to also to make a tool to trace the sun ray on a globe and after to convert it on flat earth and to show what bending the light has to do to make anything plausible on flat earth.
We already do that. We break up the globe into multiple sections of flat grids. There's so, like in the United States, it's called the State Plane Coordinate System, and you need multiple zones to make it work. And as you go to the edges of the zones, it's more distorted. So
Yeah.
it's already a thing that happens.
Okay, so I will see. If one evening I'm tired, I'm not tired, I'm bored, and I want to do nerdy things, I will do it myself.
Even in those coordinate systems, longitude lines still converge. So.
Yeah. But latitude, I have been trying to make the flat Earth map work. So using different angle to use 1 degree per comment? Yeah, 1 degree per merde.
69 miles.
69 nautical miles to work on flat Earth, but it gives me a map who is ridiculous. It's like comment? How is it called? Mercator, but a circular Mercator là. It's ridiculous. I have tried also to make the distance work, but no, it's a circle. You cannot. The distance became too big, and you cannot reconcile anything of it.
Yeah,
Slowly.
always with the bloody Mercator. I don't mean to mock your accent. I just find it it's charming.
Mercator, oui. Yeah. It's funny that I saw that there is more globber who try to make work the flat Earth than flat earther. And yes, I have an accent.
Everyone has an accent.
There is a sophism I like to say that, to illustrate that, is you ask somebody to name something who have no taste. Generally, they will say water. And you ask them, how do you recognize it have no taste? By the taste. So something with no taste have a taste. Everybody have an accent. Even the one who don't have accent, they have an accent.
Yeah, I'm training to be a professional translator. Sometimes I say that I am a translator, but that's just when I like to post on Flat Earthers. I'm still training. I'm still in school, but I'm also training to be interpreter. And interestingly enough, kind of professionally, no one gives a shit too much about if you have an accent. You would think that maybe they try to teach you out. I actually went on an English pronunciation course to get to learn a bit of the more correct pronunciation because I have quite an accent myself. But like the current line is, no one really gives a shit as long as people understand you.
Oh yeah.
How?
Yeah.
Are you worried about like AI, like taking your job basically as a translator?
I'm not letting myself be, but also mostly translators don't seem to be too worried about it. Maybe that's because we already have had tools, for example, translation memories and stuff like that, we have used in the field for similar things as what AI is gonna do. And we have just incorporated them into workflows. So because, for example, a lot of people, something that you might not think about if you buy a bottle of shampoo or pear juice or anything, if you're in a country like Finland, much of that stuff in the box that's written that's gonna be translated. And for example, in this juice box, there's the Finnish text, then there's Swedish, and then there's Estonian. Someone's gonna translate all of that. But then it's kind of a text type where like the same type of information repeats. And especially, for example, if you're translating manuals and then let's say you translate a manual for a headlamp, and then the next model of that headlamp comes out, and you might get, your company might get contacted again, because that's often how it works. People form relationships, and then the same client asks you again, oh, okay, we're now publishing a new version of this headlamp. That the manual is going to be largely the same information, only a few bits, because of course it saves work for them to keep much of the information which is relevant completely the same, and only change what has changed for the new model. So it also helps if you keep the old translations. So what translation memory does, it's taking the old translations that you have to worked on, and then it suggests new sentences based on those old translations. So you can, it's kind of what AI does, but just a bit different. So, and we have been using those kind of tools to make our workflow just faster. So given that that's how we have incorporated those things already into the professional translation thing, I think AI would just be a similar type of thing that we can just incorporate it into the workflow instead of actually it taking too many jobs.
You might
that
be
was
right.
kind of a long answer, but hopefully you found it interesting.
No, that's fair.
Might be right. You might be right, but you be like in the industry, all this you say it goes faster. So one guys will do more job, job. So it will not create more job in a sense, because one guys will be able to do more of the work. Like in a machine in the industry, it should have been to to produce more, but what we see is that we need less people to make more, actually.
Yeah,
and
that's
for cheaper.
True. I have a good friend who actually works in he creates firms, and his view on AI is really interesting, because his view on AI is companies kind of have two directions that they can go to. They can try to save money and fire as many people as they can, or they can try to keep the same workforce that they currently have, but help use the productivity that AI gives by actually multiplying their output. So, and I think that's a really interesting. If you actually want to do things more ethically, you might actually want to keep all of your people, but just make sure that your output to the market is now way more than it was before.
But it is a market, and you will need to reduce the cost. If you are producing more, you will have all time someone else who will be able to produce more and cheaper. So it is a problem of now, since all this automatized and mechanized job do not profit to the people. It profit only to the boss and the market.
Yeah, it is definitely a problem. I'm not saying that it's not a problem. Currently, translation is still a very fast growing field, actually. So it looks like it might be still growing faster than AI is going to take jobs. But we'll have to see. That's basically the answer in any field, isn't it? Like, we're just gonna have to see.
Agreed. Hello, Risky. Good evening.
Hello, Nico.
How does the conversation about friction end up yesterday?
I think we had a bit of fun.
But I had to leave. But
yeah, you did. Look, we bantered around for maybe another 15 to 30 minutes, and I don't know, stuff started getting a little bit what do you call it, like a bit messy. So I departed at that point.
So I would like to finish my point because I was not able to. It is that friction do not add energy to the system, and to have an acceleration, to have more speed in your system, you need to add energy. But the friction does not add energy. It took some out. It transfer mostly, depend of the surface. So I would like you to explain to me how friction add energy to the system.
Let me get into it a little bit. What was that? What was I saying? I think I arrived at the terminology that it was a catalyst, or at least like
Yes.
inherently required within the equation of creating force. Friction is a necessary property, and it would seem to me that all terrestrial observations support this idea. I've been sort of looking around, or I think I remember looking around a little bit. What was it? The only example that I can find of this not like being congruent is space and electricity, which I've even got a debate about this electrical stuff. But yeah, that's my response in general.
Yeah, because also I can tell you that magnet and for example electric motor create acceleration without friction.
They create acceleration. Okay. Question for you. I mean, you got a bit of electrical knowledge.
Yes.
Cool. So when you pass a high current through an electrical cable, piece of copper, and you start getting to the upper limits of what that cable can handle, you would notice that it heats up, right?
Of course.
Cool. So what causes that kind of heat that you're aware of? I mean, from my understanding, this is supposed to be that electrons are bashing together, and when you get too many electrons for the size of the cable, it starts overheating at that point. But, you know, this heat is created, I mean, by friction, no? If it's electrons clanging together?
No, come on, atom and electron never touch together. Nothing, no matter. You, when you are touching something, in fact, you are never touching. Atom will
But this
try
comes
to
from the
share.
idea that, what is it? Atoms so friction is only that of an interaction between material substances, yeah?
Yeah, it's a interaction, but not.
That's your distinction about friction, though.
Yeah, not. What is a good word in English? Not physical is not the good word because electromagnetism is a physical.
No, that's the thing. They call them particles. This is why you guys are getting a little bit stuck, I think, which is kind of interesting to me.
Yeah, but there is no contact. Voilà, there is no contact between the atom. You have the electrons that might be jumping to one atom to another, and you will have ionization and stuff like that. But you have in your cable, you will have the electron will get more excited. As you put more current, they get more excited. And this excitement created heat. It is in a temperature. At absolute zero, everything stopped moving. All electron and everything stopped moving in the atom. And as it gets hotter and hotter, it gets more excited and it.
Yeah, but I mean, it seems to me, okay, so this is caused by the resistance of the cable, right? Like the current is too high for the resistance load of the cable. And this is like what, electrons bashing together? It's colliding electrons. I'm not sure about like the deeper sort of electrical explanation for the phenomenon, but just superficially, I'm reading here, it's electron collisions. And a collision is a contact. So I don't know. Like, I mean, these just could be kind of loose terms, but
it is not collision. differential of potential, you will have electron who will go more one way, oriented one way, and that will get your difference of potential in your cable. When you have electricity, you don't have the electron. What I understand, you don't have the electron who is moving in the cable from atom to atom.
Yeah, but I mean, they call it resistance in like when they like use these terminologies of electrical explanation of the phenomenon. They call it resistance, and friction is resistance, right?
Friction, yeah, is resistance. Yeah, you can use loosely system.
Exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, frictions aren't necessarily material, is it? Like there's other forces that could cause. There's other forces that could cause friction, right? Doesn't have to be like a contact force.
But it is friction. It will be, you see, kind of a contact. You have friction. You don't have friction in electromagnetism, for example. You will have the field. The field will be opposing each other, but it is not really friction.
Where's the heat come from?
Excitation of the electron.
But you can just imagine a block. You can imagine a block on an incline. There's friction keeping that block there, stopping it from going down the hill. So there's friction in that system, and there's zero acceleration.
So a dead weight is experiencing friction?
Static. It's called like the coefficient of friction. There's a static one, and then there's a one while it's moving. It's two different. There's two different coefficient of frictions. At least that's what I remember from physics. A surface will have two different coefficients of frictions. One while there's like there's the object's coefficient of friction, and then the surface. And while the object's moving is different compared to while it's just standing there. That's why when you like give that a little, once you give it enough force to overcome that static, that's why it keeps moving. Like,
sure,
that's when it'll excel. So you have friction in a system with zero acceleration, except for let's not get into the gravity thing.
What about like eddy currents? Like when you drop a piece of aluminum through a copper tube, like it's not touching the sides, but would that be considered friction?
I said that's one of the examples I brought up because it shows resistance or displays resistance, right? And it heats up too.
What is that? Is that like the Lorentz law, the something law, where if you drop like something and like the harder you push on it, like the more it resists you, with like a like they did it in a Verisatum video or whatever, like where the guy was like pushing
like
down
superfluids, like the
no,
corn syrup or whatnot. No,
I think it was like a magnet or. Does anyone remember what I'm talking about? Or know what I'm talking about?
I think it would be called different things depending on what's causing it. Like you mentioned, corn syrup would do that. That magnetic effect with aluminum and copper would do that. Is it the same? Is it the same term?
I think it would be the same term.
I mean, either way, I don't know what it is.
I don't think that would be called friction. I'm not sure if that would be called friction. Maybe? I don't know. That's a good question. Maybe that's the difference between resistance and friction. Because I don't see how I don't see how the coefficient of friction would be affecting like that material.
That's a fair point.
So what they're saying here is that, what is this? Electrons in motion. Essentially like a current carrying wire. The electrons collide with the atomic lattice structure, and these cause vibrations, which are quantized as phonons in units of thermal energy at that point. Causes vibration. Fascinating. Have we arrived at a common ground, Nico? I think so. I'm willing to acknowledge the fact that what is this, like friction in its like specific terminology seems to be sort of referring to matter contacting matter. And then when it comes to any of these other sort of resistance values of electricity, that phenomenon, which is the only other thing I can think of that might provide anything that is akin to friction without the touching of atoms, still talks of it in terms of resistance, and it creates heat. So I don't know what to make of it at that point.
No, that also, I will not state on that. It is just me. I would like to understand how it can create acceleration or friction. And we'll be precise, we'll say the mechanical friction causes an acceleration. It is because I understand you said the catalyst, but me, I will just use a transfer of force by friction. You can transfer energy and force by many means, but the transfer of force by friction doesn't add any energy to the system. It will take some energy to the system, but it doesn't add. And if you don't add energy to the system, you cannot accelerate it.
I mean, what is it? Acceleration without friction is I mean, I don't think we see that. There's a coupling, but I appreciate where you're coming from there. But they're sort of inherently sort of connected in that way.
If you want acceleration without friction, you have the maglev train that will be suspended over the rail, and they will be accelerating without touching anything.
It would still be resistant,
right? Still friction, because you can make power with that.
See, I like that. That's what I'm thinking too.
I think the only real way to get motion without resistance would be to manipulate space-time to alter the geodesic. So you just be falling, so to speak.
Superconduction, frozen magnets, frozen.
Are we going back to the future now?
No, I'm going back to the superconductor.
We're going back to the future, boys.
It just levitates above the other one that has no resistance.
Get in the DeLorean. Come on, pack it up.
No, I don't know about that part.
So me, I will be going to take a shower and hoping Demok will be not here when I'll be back. See you later.
I think you got a fan, Demok.
Well, go learn about superconductors.
Hopefully soon.
Go learn about time machines and stuff. That's not possible.
Well, travel into the future is possible. Into the past, probably not.
Which is a concept. Only the present exists.
Mercifully, his microphone is muffled.
Say in a superconductor when you get it real cold, because they get real cold and it's the magnetism. So yeah. The only other way to superconduct would be a vacuum. Be the same type of action. Be keeping it cold at the rate of induction, the rate that it gets high and cold. I guess. But I don't know how the sun's hot in the vacuum. The vacuum's supposed to suck all the energy away from stuff.
No, it's not. Not how vacuums work.
It used to be like space has been smashing stuff. Like when you smash particles and you gotta squeeze the thing, you gotta do this thing like it seems like space has been smashing shit together, not pulling it apart, not like being an expanse. Seems like it's a great crusher.
Not how space works.
I can't tell whether space is like nothing, doing nothing and pulling everything apart, or smashing everything into fusion. It's really confusing.
Are you ever right about anything, even on accident?
How do vacuums work?
By creating a pressure differential? So famously, you might have heard people mention that when you have a balloon, for example, right, you blow up the balloon, and when you let go of the balloon, it's the outside pressure actually pushing the air out. Same with a straw. When you drink through a straw.
I mean, it's also the tension of the. No, wait up. I mean, the balloon. The reason why no, it's not the pressure on the outside. The balloon has got a plastic malleable surface that's trying to return back to its ideal state.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I mean, the reason why the air is gushing out of the balloon is not because the atmosphere is pressing upon the balloon. It's because the material the balloon's made of is trying to return back to its original state. That's where the pressure's coming from. Like if you had a floppy balloon, right, that you just, it's not going to start rushing out all of a sudden.
Sure, that's fair enough. The same is true with a straw, however. Right, so when you suck in through a straw, you're creating a pressure differential that the outside air is trying to equalize. So it's pushing water into the straw.
All right. I agree.
Yeah, because in order for a balloon to have like a rigid shape, like a spherical shape a typical balloon has, it has to have more pressure on the inside than on the outside. Because like if you had normal atmospheric pressure inside, it's not going to be enough for it to have that constant rigid shape.
Yeah. The rubber of the balloon is part of the equation.
Yeah, so if you then open the balloon or pop it, then the atmosphere is going to equalize. But you still need a container for that vacuum.
Love it.
what for me would be cool if someone did that is to do an actual experiment to show gas pressure next to a vacuum to like shut flat earthers down once for forever on that argument, because the arguments for this gas pressure next to vacuum are based on like extrapolations and analogies, and yeah, when you consider laws of physics, it makes sense. But flat earthers don't really care about it; they just care about like direct demonstrations. And those demonstrations are possible, but nobody has done that yet, and that kind of bothers me. For instance, you could do one.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think I will do that actually.
How?
At some point.
What was your technique?
Well, I think the best technique would be like taking a very heavy gas like the sulfur hexafluoride, but instead of having it next to the air, you would need to have it in a vacuum chamber. But in that case, you would need enough high vacuum chamber for it to not escape from the top. And I think that would be a best example where you have very heavy gas, so most affected by gravity, compared with a high container, enough high container for it to not escape. And to see that significant like guttering of that gas on the bottom and a vacuum on the top.
Isn't that just buoyancy at that point, though?
Like that there are multiple people speaking at the same time. I didn't understand.
That's all right. I'll let the other gentleman go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, my understanding is that the gas pressure requires a container argument is essentially over. They conceded gravity. They conceded that the container could be at the edge of the universe, and all the collected atmospheres around planets could potentially just be gradients. Like, I don't know if are they still saying like within the atmosphere that you need a container?
Well, why does the moon have an atmosphere? I guess they say it's like a really light atmosphere or something, don't they? I'm gonna look up moon winds.
Yeah, because the moon doesn't have enough gravity. But they kind of double speak, right? So at the same time, they will say, when you like give them the pressure graded argument, they will say, but it's still pressure. It's just a change of pressure, and in order to have pressure in the first place, you need to have a container. But then you say that vacuum of space is also still pressure. It's just a very, very small pressure. And then they change the argument to like saying, but it's like 10 to the negative 17 torr. So they give like an actual number that is too big for them. I mean, too small for them. But when you want to press them on what's the actual like limit, how small pressure you need to have without a container to demonstrate, they will revert to that original argument that it's still pressure and you need a container. So they will kind of shift between those two arguments dishonestly, either giving like a specific limit of what's the smallest pressure you need a container for, or like saying that you need a container no matter what's the pressure.
So it's like whack-a-mole.
Yeah. Because if you only use this argument that you need a container for a gradient, no matter what pressure you have, then as you already said, you can have a container at the edge of the universe. And in that case, that argument wouldn't work because the purpose in practice of their argument was to dismiss the images of space. So they could say that it's all fake, and they know it's fake without having to prove it's fake because they went to an impossible place, which violates the second law of thermodynamics. But in that case, if you have container at the edge of the universe, you could have the entire solar system inside of that container. So that's no longer a problem. That's why they have to shift dishonestly between those two versions of the argument, but never stick to one, because you can individually deconstruct either of them with different tactics.
Yeah.
So Pluto has an atmosphere.
Yeah, Pluto has an atmosphere. There's even like a famous photo of the probe. I believe it wasn't Voyager. I don't remember what probe was that, but that was behind Pluto, and you could see like the ring of the atmosphere around Pluto, backlit from the back, right? With the light scattered in that atmosphere.
Pluto is 68%. It's smaller than the moon, and yet it has reported methane, nitrogen, and carbon monoxide at the surface.
It's really cold. That's the difference.
Also, it could be more dense than the moon. So even though it's smaller in size, it could have more mass.
No, but that's not it. I mean, Pluto, I don't know what the size is. It's not different enough in size for that to be important. Its gravity's got to be pretty similar, but it's way colder.
Pluto's 2,500 kilometers wide, and the moon is 3,500.
Yeah, so maybe it's a little denser, but the most important thing is the fact that it's just enormously colder. The surface doesn't get up to like 200, 300 degrees Fahrenheit when the sun's shining on it.
What would cause its density to be that much higher?
Well, first of all, it's not that much higher, right? I mean, it's within a factor of 2. I'll say I am a little surprised. Well, let's see. I mean, that is a little surprising because I think rock planets tend to have, and the moon is less dense than the Earth, doesn't have an iron core. I wouldn't think Pluto would necessarily either, but well, I'm just babbling here now. I don't know.
Pluto does have water on it. Not liquid, though.
Not liquid, yeah.
It's got water. And what was the reason? You said that the moon is hotter.
Yeah, I mean, if there's any, the most important thing, of course, is just well, it's not the most important thing. It's a competition between temperature and gravity. And Pluto's just way colder than the moon.
Because like warmer particles of a gas, they move faster because they have higher kinetic energy, so they will have it easier to escape from gravity.
What is the atmosphere on the moon?
Apparently, it doesn't have any.
Yeah, nothing to speak
very
of.
Little.
Yeah.
Right, but I mean, even what's on Pluto is pretty small.
Yeah, it's thin, but there's definitely more than on the moon.
I mean, that's what I was looking for.
I just Google. There are pictures of they've taken pictures that kind of show some. I don't know if it's the sun shining through it, but there's pictures of the atmosphere of Pluto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's the picture I was already talking about. Maybe I will post it here on the text chat because it's a very pretty picture. Also, sorry for the birds in the background.
Part of the reason the moon doesn't have one is that the solar winds knock it off every day.
So I was just looking, the density of Pluto actually is much smaller, and I'm guessing that's probably because it's more ice than rock. I don't know if that's right or not.
Makes sense. That's why I personally think that colonizing the moon is a better idea than colonizing Mars as the first target, because if you colonize the moon, it doesn't have the atmosphere, it has lower gravity, so you could use it basically as kind of a launching base for rockets.
But if your other stuff, it'll pull you apart.
They already terraformed the moon on the dark side.
How's that?
And then when they show you pictures, it's just CGI, where they scrub out the cities and the
Oh, I see.
military bases.
Okay, I get it.
But yeah, what you said makes sense. You do the moon first, but they probably are doing it secretly.
The dark side of the moon is where the Third Reich and Adolf Hitler escaped in their UFOs after battling against American fleet in Antarctica.
It's possible, yeah. I think all the special races and secret societies have little monopolies on the moon.
There's not a lot of space for them there, right? I mean, at least in the flat Earth story, the moon's about 30 miles in diameter, so you can't really put a lot of stuff on it.
The flat earthers don't believe this.
But you also have to remember that the moon is hollow, so it's like actually like a giant spaceship. So there's a lot of space on the inside.
Oh, that
Twice
could
as
make
much
sense.
space, right? Yeah.
On a flat Earth, yeah, they just go inside as well.
I guess if the moon had an atmosphere, then we could actually test that from Earth, because during a solar eclipse, you could see the light scattered through that atmosphere.
Globers argue it's really easy to land on the moon, don't they? So obviously we have, and we've set up stuff. They just haven't told you.
But Manufacturer wanted to say something.
Yeah, I found the numbers. So the atmosphere on Pluto is 0.1 bar, and on the moon, it's 3 times 10 to the negative 15 bar. So yes, significantly larger on Pluto.
I wonder what's the difference between the moon's atmosphere and like vacuum of space, somewhere far away from any planet, because I think it would be pretty similar in pressure. I don't think you could even like call it an atmosphere, because technically there's a little bit of gas everywhere in space, so you could call every single place an atmosphere.
I was just kind of looking up that very question, and it looks like interplanetary space. Well, at least one thing says 5 to 40 particles per cubic centimeter. And at the moon, at the surface of the moon, it's more like 100, right? So you get a density enhancement maybe of a factor of 10 or something, maybe, from the Earth and the moon's gravity.
You're laughing, but that's the difference that for flat earthers makes a container required, because you can go to like stratosphere and measure very little pressure next to very big pressure on the sea level without any container in between. But when you go to 10 to the negative 17 psi or taller, then it's it's a big deal. So in flat earth,
if you fart in space, does it become a star or a sun?
Only if you light it.
It's gas. I thought that's all it could do.
You have to orgasm.
So why does space squeeze a gas like a vice, but then pull other stuff apart with gas?
Gravity squeezes it like a vice, not space.
It didn't make any sense. So inside a container, it's going to rip the stuff out of you. But when there's no container, it's going to squeeze you real hard. Nah.
What the hell?
Could ever demonstrate. I don't
That
know.
didn't make any sense.
I know that's your gravity.
That's kind of what you get from the.
It's your space gravity. It'll rip the air out of a can. But if there's air sitting there by itself, it'll make it a sun and squeeze it together.
Wow, right. It's just like incredible nonsense. Kind of what you expect to get.
That's nearly right, Damlock.
Well, it's like the ocean pulls the air out, the air bubbles, right? But then you put air into the water, you're going to make a sun.
It's not the same. It's not quite the same.
Sounds exactly the same to me.
Well, so much for this conversation. See you guys.
Why do you demonstrate yours? I got water. What are you guys using? Imagination.
I want to put that on a
Thank you. Occam's razor wins. I got water. You got nothing.
Space gravity rips stuff out of a can.
Just like I can make water hold a shape and be solid and sit at rest.
You got to listen to me if you want me to help.
He doesn't want that.
What's your space vacuum? What can you use? To
You
show
always
us
got
what
to
that
ask.
means. So we can not be confused about your guys' confusion on what you don't even know your vacuum is.
I can say it. I can explain it to you.
That ain't gonna help. I can explain water to you, but until I throw you in it, you'll never know. So I got water.
If you want it, you can.
If you wanna, I got real stuff. You got imagination or not?
Yes.
Is your vacuum imaginary? Because mine's water.
Your vacuum is water?
Yeah, try to put some air in there and leave. The air will vacuum out. Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
It'll
Don't
bubble
be
up.
so retarded, man. Air bubbles don't stick around.
Bubble to the surface. Right.
It's like in biblical cosmology where they believe in waters above the firmament.
Planet. Yeah, we know. Yeah, we got you, weirdos. Gravity makes stuff take off now. Just fucking take off, little gravity.
It makes the water fall.
Super rocket gravity faster than a bullet. That's crazy.
Mixing up two problems.
We got you, guys. Can I get your vacuum? Let's test it. Let's test your vacuum and make sure it's not imaginary.
You can't afford it.
Can't afford what? Your imagination? Yeah, you can.
To pay for a vacuum.
What's a vacuum?
Well, either a chamber or a trip to space. You can't afford that.
I'd like to know what the space one is.
Yeah, I know, but you can't afford it, so maybe next life.
You can't afford to find it out either. Too bad it's secret.
I know I can't, but I can choose to believe in some of it.
Keep it secret from you boys.
Yeah, it makes it more exciting. It's more exciting if something's a bit of secret, and then you can find out little bits and bobs.
It's not a secret, though.
Yeah, what, your speculation? Your imagination's not a secret? Sure is. Can't make it physical.
I mean, he calls it a secret, but he means not everyone can afford it.
No, I didn't say price tag. Secret. I said you don't have one. A vacuum.
Yeah, but it's not really a secret.
Yeah, well, go get one. Go get a moon rock. Go get a secret moon rock, too. That's not a secret either.
I can't afford a moon rock.
I didn't tell you to buy one. I said go get one. Scientific purposes, you're going to give it back like Noonan's just asked Riddle. Give him your ID. You get the moon rock right back when you get your ID back when you give him the moon rock, dude.
You need to personally fly to the moon and
Give him
collect
your
your own
ID
individual
and
moon
sign
rock.
off on the moon rock. Bring us one and we'll all look at it. And a vacuum, too. Both things.
One of my control keys was sticky, so I just swapped them over instead of cleaning it properly.
I mean, I wish the government would give you guys more than imagination to work with. Maybe one day you guys could be right about some physical attributes. You wouldn't have to say everything does the opposite of itself and does what it don't do.
Well,
and
I
then
can
you guys are
explain that.
right when stuff does what it don't do. You're just right all of a
Hey,
sudden. But then
if
you
want
have
me
no
to
backing.
explain- If you want me to explain that to you, I will.
I want you to get your vacuum. You can
doesn't
stop
want
you can imagine stuff all day, but you ain't right. You ain't no vacuum, Don. You're not gonna help me know what a
I'm not
vacuum
saying
is.
I'm
It's
not-
like I'm not water. So until
not
you get
saying
in
I'm-
water, I couldn't help you explain it all day. Explanation not gonna help.
Yeah, I get you. I'm not going to imagine it. I could just tell you what I think they mean.
No, you could go get one.
No, can't afford it. Okay, let's play it this way. Let's pretend I had a vacuum chamber and I could live stream it now. What would you want to see?
Water sticking into a ball.
Yeah. And what sort of ball? How am I going to hang it from a string or put it on a pole? Or just put it on the table or what?
Yeah, that would be even better. Yeah, get it levitating. Yeah, sound.
Levitating? Yeah, okay. So that's two things. Not really to do with the vacuum. Now I've got another thing to think about. You're just being unreasonable.
Isn't Earth in a vacuum?
Yeah, of course. But for me to show you about vacuums and floating, levitating planets at the same time, that's going to be double to think about.
I know your model's in a bit of a crisis right now, isn't it?
Oh, no, of course it isn't, because I'm still going to believe it when I go to sleep and when I get up. So that's not a crisis, is it? What you mean is
well, you just
still
both
don't
those
believe it?
points you
What do you
couldn't
mean?
present.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
No, that's it from me. I just wanted to remark that because I thought it'd be funny.
It's not a crisis, though, because I'm still going to believe it. I think it's reasonable, so...
It's definitely a crisis if you can't scientifically prove your claim, but you believe it.
No, it's not, because not everything has to be scientifically proved, in quotes, from a flat earther perspective. I get to prove stuff how I want to prove it to me.
Fair enough. I'll take that
Most of the
concession.
stuff can be demonstrated scientifically.
That concession, you mean you can't think of anything better to say as a response?
The concession where you just admitted you can't scientifically prove your model. Yes, I'll take that.
I didn't say that, though. So you're just lying.
So when you say
I
it's
certainly didn't
scientifically-
hear that, but okay.
when you say scientifically proven, like what's your standard of proof?
He wanted a
Follow the
levitating,
scientific method.
levitating mini
Well,
ball.
I want the
wall on.
conditions I want the conditions that's claimed to be. So it's got to be floating in a vacuum next, you've got the container, which is gravity, holding the air and everything. If you could prove all of it, it'd be brilliant. But I don't think you can, so we'll just start
But
with
do
the
you
water
mean a
sticking
little
to a
model?
ball. I think that'd be a good start.
So
You mean a
water
little
sticking
model?
to a
What
ball.
the
So
fuck?
so let's think about that for a second. Let's say we have a very, very large ball, right? That produces, because of its density, it produces a force that pulls everything towards it. Do you not think that water would stick to it? Could that happen?
No, he's at the point of saying you haven't done it yet in a lab.
Okay, yeah, well, no. Regardless if I haven't done it, do you think it's possible that if a very large ball had a force, we don't know what's causing the force, but it has a force that's pulling things
No,
towards it.
he says no, doesn't he? Or else he wouldn't need you to show him that exact thing.
It doesn't matter if I can show him or not. You can think about it, right?
But you're missing his position, which is
I don't
I
care
don't
about
believe
that.
because you can't show me.
I don't care about that. I'm saying think
Oh
about
my
it for a
God.
second. Let's say theoretically, if there was a very large sphere that because of its mass had a force that pulled things towards it, would it not keep the water on it because of this force? We could both say yes, right? Also, we know that
I don't know. That's what I want to see.
We know that air molecules.
Yeah, I'd love to see it. Yeah.
We know that air molecules also.
I would
have
say
mass,
no,
so
as it's something I've never seen before. So if it's something that I've never seen before, and you're saying that that's possible, then I would probably just say, okay, if it's possible, then I'd like to see it. and then I would agree with you. Else, something that I've not ever seen before. You just hypotheticals of random stuff. That's what it is. It's like, oh, what if? What if this happened? What if this happened? Yeah, anything could be possible. Simulation theory, yeah, sure. Could it be possible?
You're right. It's completely the wrong question.
Hold on. I can't produce a sphere as large as the Earth to show that to you. But we could think about it, right? If the Earth is that large, and if it has a force, which we all know that things fall to the ground, we can safely say that if the Earth was a sphere with the same force that we see, it would hold the water onto it as well as the atmosphere.
So you guys are
no, I don't agree with that.
There.
Why not?
It's what if? Because it's what if.
So what would your theory be of what the Earth is if it's not a sphere with a force pulling things towards it?
I think it's okay to have unknowns, like what happened before the singularity, what caused the singularity, and all that. I think that no one has the answers to certain things, and just because you don't have the answer to something, it doesn't mean that these weird other claims are true. So it's a false dichotomy.
That's not what I asked you. I asked you what was your idea of the Earth? What is your idea of the Earth? If it's not a sphere, what is it? It's flat. It's a flat plane, correct?
I don't know. I said that.
Don't know. But
sure,
you know
you can say it's a flat plane if you want to.
But you know it's not a sphere. You don't know what it is, but you know it's not a sphere, right?
I didn't say I don't know it's not a sphere. What I said is your claim of it being a sphere doesn't make any sense because it's something that we cannot, and you said so yourself, it's something we cannot that can't be demonstrated, something we cannot put in an experiment and actually replicate. So just by saying that you don't know something, but these ideas kind of could be, what if, is still not an answer to your own question. You've not answered your own question.
Okay, so I can't demonstrate
postulating ideas.
I can't demonstrate a sphere as large as the Earth with gravity, right? I can't do that. But there's other things. What other things do you think I could do? What other things do you think I can replicate?
By using a telescope.
Could I replicate a sunset with a sphere and a light source?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, we can do that. Can I replicate 24-hour sun with a sphere and a light source?
Yes. Yeah, you can look away from the sphere to prove your sphere. Yeah, sure. If you want to do that, you can using kinematics. Yeah.
Okay, could I replicate? Could I use? Flat plane.
Yes.
That might be a little.
Hell yeah, you can. Hell yeah, every day, all day, brother. Don't be so retarded. You're in the military. Don't act fucking stupid, dude.
Could I replicate a sunset?
The middle of the straight line will make you not see the edge. Don't act fucking dumb, dude. Get a light. You're in the military. What, you ain't got the resources? Military boy? Go show us. Show us we're wrong.
Could I replicate? Hold on, man.
Are you ready, man? What are you not demonstrating? Let me know when you demonstrated both models.
So could I replicate a sphere? Could I replicate a sunset with a table?
Yeah, you can do both.
The way we see it in reality.
Make sure your ball's the same size as the table.
I didn't ask you, Demog. I asked the other guy.
I already said yes to that.
Yeah, they've done it. They've done it in
They said they've done it. Who's done it?
Everybody, weird bitch.
How convincing was it to you?
You too retarded to look stuff up? You too retarded to do it yourself? Let's see. Go get a flat surface, step 1. Go get a light source, step 2. Move it away from you. Step 3. Wow, this is so hard, B-ball. You'll learn one day, third grader. We'll teach you how to climb in a high chair. Step 1, grab a hold of the legs. Step 2, pull up. Step 3, turn around, sit down. Step 4, buckle yourself in.
All right, so let me go back the other gentleman.
What's step
So you
5?
said
I didn't even. What's step 5?
they replicated it on a table. Could you how convincing were you? How convinced were you when you seen it?
Yeah, we don't feel safe now. Okay, I don't know who did this to DMOC. We don't feel safe.
Yeah, it is not helping the conversation. Just fucking blabbering, and he doesn't stop.
I mean,
Perfectly safe if you're not over talking.
You did take over to interrogate the guy.
No, I'm just asking questions. So when you saw them replicate the sunset on the table, how convincing was it?
You're not getting to the heart of his issue.
We don't answer questions without our lawyer present. We don't feel safe the way you're treating us now.
Are the questions too hard?
How are you being treated?
We don't feel safe. We don't answer questions.
Are the questions too hard?
We don't answer questions.
Yeah, we know.
It's okay. I'm the good cop. I'll get you a burger, and you can explain your story later to me if you want to.
We don't answer questions without our legal representation.
So I've seen some of these demonstrations that flat earthers have tried with sunsets, and I'm sorry, they were not convincing. They don't show what an actual sunset looks like in reality. So I wasn't convinced. So I'm not sure how you guys were convinced. Saw these flat earth demonstrations of sun. So we started off by trying to replicate a sphere with gravity. We can't do that, but we can replicate other things.
You got it wrong again, though. He wanted to demonstrate, and if we could teach him that demonstrate means we can show you balls of gas and dirt in the sky that look like balls, and why would they be anything else? And just follow the theory of gravity through. Like, that's a demonstration.
So a telescope, and you can see, well, I guess, yeah, that will be a little bit more difficult to demonstrate, because then you'd have to believe that what you're looking at is actually a ball of gas, space.
I mean, but that is a normal demonstration for most people, so you could take them through that.
But then the question is like, well, how do you know that's a ball of gas in space? That's where that would go.
Do you realize you're being unreasonable asking for a little ball in a lab when there's loads of balls you can see in the sky?
Mm-hmm. Oh, like I said, like you wouldn't use that as some sort of demonstration, but you can demonstrate other things that we see in reality. No, I can't make a ball of gas with gravity in a lab.
I find the most effective way to go through that. So when you were asking, like, is it possible? I think he was being disingenuous by not answering my question. Of course, it's possible. He just didn't want to engage with a hypothetical. If you accept that, then the question is, how do we test it? And if they can conjure up some experiment that somehow excludes Earth's gravity or excludes either model for the sake of establishing a model, then we can have that conversation. But as far as I know, they're as unable to come up with that as we are. So the fact that they're asking for that sort of so adamantly, I think is the problem.
Yeah, they want to ask for things that are kind of impossible to demonstrate, and therefore, if we can't demonstrate it, then they win.
Right, and that's the other issue, is that at best you could say, okay, we haven't demonstrated it, so we don't know what it is, but then in the next breath, they'll say, so it's definitely not a sphere. I think that's
He didn't win. He had to run away just now.
Don't answer, Papa. Don't answer them.
Why are you so scared to answer, No Tanks?
He's not.
So the entire stream from yesterday got deleted, and I apologize because I let it run longer than 12 hours.
Just do it all again.
Yep, do it all again. Hopefully at 12 hours, I'm able to stop it and restart it.
Maybe get a what do you call it? Like an Alexa hooked up to it. Just like time it to turn off or something. Turn your whole computer off. Safety, shut the whole thing down as a safety precaution.
Yeah, but that won't restart the stream then after 12 hours.
I'm out of ideas. That was just my first idea. I have many more.
I think you should stop it every 6 hours, but that means 4 times a day, doesn't it? Which is a chore.
Yeah, I mean, I actually could do that. Just, just got to remember to stop it.
Or 10. 10's a nice round number.
It's usually like 11 and a half. I'll catch it and then because I have access to my PC like on my phone also. I have a remote desktop set up on my phone. So
sure
I'm gonna go ahead.
I'm sure there's elaborate code which could do it for you, but I don't know anything about that.
I'm gonna unmute Dimok and y'all can have at it.
Wait. Before you unmuted him, I want to say something quickly. You can find a script to do the streaming and breaking the video, or you can make one with any AI tool. I'm sure all the streamers do it. You can just make a script for it to access your account and to break the videos.
Really? I wish I knew how to do that.
Yeah, with Python.
I wish I was that computer savvy to be able to do that.
Just get the app. It'll say add scripts.
You can pay me to do that.
I'm not gonna pay anybody to do anything.
So, dude, it's not hard. It's not hard. The only thing you will have to do is to give your credentials in the script. That's the main part.
Oh,
look it up.
I just thought of it in my head.
Like,
you should do it every 11 hours and just leave it off for 1 hour. So
also
every 12
there is
hours, stop it at 11 hours.
Also, if you're doing it through OBS, I'm sure there is like a plugin or extension that does that, because there is many channels like this channel that does 24-hour server, and if the Flat Earthers solve it, you can do it too, or you can actually go and ask them.
There probably is an option on OBS.
So
on bended
Geo does
knee,
it,
if you would like the on bended knee, you may come and request the information that you need.
Okay. So I know the way Geo does it. Geo just lets it run, and like it'll just run for 12 hours. Like it won't, you know what I mean? But if he stops it, like if he stops the stream, the entire stream will just disappear. So he just lets it run. And if you have something that you want to hear, you have to make sure you get it before the 12 hours is up, because it'll just automatically go away. Like he doesn't have like multiple days of streams. Go ahead.
Again, you can ask Jim Panda. You can ask. I don't know.
No,
I've
asked Jem. Jem doesn't do it either. Jem just lets it run. He doesn't stop. Like there's no multiple days of him streaming. He just lets it run like nonstop. And if there's something on there you want to like retain, you got to make sure you get it before the 12 hours is up.
Why didn't you get the reflector? I don't think so.
Anyway, I'm sure there is a script. I just don't have the time to look it up for you.
Yeah, I'll do some research. Also, my other problem is like sometimes I'll be asleep and I'll get the fucking streaming account will get booted out of the call. So there's like hours of silence on the stream. That's an issue. And I've asked Jem, like, what's his how does he cope with that? And he says he doesn't either. Sometimes it just happens. He just gets booted out of the call. But I think if I'm in the call and I'm actually streaming like in the call, like I'm sharing my screen, it won't boot me out. But that will just stop. If there's more than 25 people, then it'll put a cap on how many people can join the stream.
There is an length timer thing in OBS. Apparently, it's quite shit, but you can install a better one.
A what?
There's a standard timer that in OBS that sets how long your stream is, so you can do 11 hours 55 minutes. But
where the hell is that?
I just looked it up. It's called output timer. But people complain because if you press stop, and if you try and change the time, it fucks or freezes the stream. So there's an advanced output timer, and you install that, and then I think that's all you need.
Okay, I'll look that up. Oh yeah, OBS output time allows you to automatically stop your stream or record after. Oh, okay. Appreciate it. I'll look that up.
But that's
Tools
not for
output.
phone. That's just for PC, I think.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Because if it stops on its own, that's fine. But if it goes over 12 hours, like if it goes 12 hours and I think it's over 12 hours and 30 minutes, then the entire stream will get deleted. YouTube would just fucking
If you're
just
doing
delete
it
it.
twice a day, that timer's just in case you forget and sleep in.
Right. All right, I'll check that. Appreciate it.
Oh, but you're saying it doesn't save it? I would have thought YouTube would. Yeah, that's why people are doing the 55 minutes thing. So it saves 11 hours, 55 minutes.
Omni, you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
So did you set up the event?
I have
'Cause
not.
I don't see
I'm
it.
actually doing that now. So GMT +3.
Yeah. This is my time. Translate it to
Yes,
your
I
time.
know. Well, I'm having a hard time figuring out what that is in Eastern Standard.
You can set it up, and I will tell you after. Just move it 2 hours forwards or backwards in case of something if you're not sure.
Okay. So that's what I put in. I just DM'd it to you. Well, that will appear in your time zone, yeah. So that should be. Do you see that?
I'm having a battle with. I'm in the ad block war at the moment. So, I guess my hypothesis is I might have to give up using Chrome. This is just becoming a hard fight. But it might go back to normal in a day or two.